Racing Interests. I'd like to start off with maybe we could just do a round of introductions. I think we've got a sign-up sheet going around, so please sign in and get your contact information so we can make sure to keep you involved in this process. I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Dale Bickle. I'm the county's new Chief Administrative Officer.
I'm Barbara Behrens, the Missoula County Auditor.
Larry Anderson, Missoula County Commissioner.
Barry Barnes, Facilities Manager.
Lee Braley, Turf Club member.
Roger Fraley, Turf Club.
Maurice Halverson, Turf Club member.
Bruce Miklas, Horse Racing Interests.
Val Crossland, Turf Club member, simulcast operator.
Dave Truman, Turf Club.
Linda Truman, Turf Club, and co-horse racing owner.
Mark Edwards, owner, trainer.
Jeff Patterson.
Dale Bagdell.
I'm Dale Malum, I'm a breeder. Nick Alonzo.
Don Arambula from Crandall Arambula, the consultant. George Crandall from Crandall Arambula.
Terry Marks, Extension Office.
Scott Meter, Fair Manager.
And this is Ms. B. Fair Office.
I'm Cliff Larson, I'm a breeder.
I'm the chair.
I'm Buck Smith.
Reed Williams, Inland Empire Shows.
I'm Dan Rose.
Madeline Heitzman Foundation.
We're back here, cameraman.
There you go.
Forgot us, go ahead.
Kim Brigman from Missoulian.
Kim Bagnell of Bagnell Racing Stable and tax-paying citizen.
And did we miss anyone? I don't think so. The format, we have an hour. The format for the meeting is we'll run through a couple of slides which will give you some sense of what the process is that we're all involved in. And then we would like to open it up and have you ask questions, and we'll try and provide some answers. And then what we would like to do is go around the table and hear from each one of you before the meeting's over to get your thoughts about things, issues and concerns you have, or things that you think need to be addressed in this planning effort. So, having said that, let's get on with it. And we have some slides up here, and I'm informed that if I touch the screen, it'll move ahead. Jason did this before, and so these are the things we want to do. Pretty straightforward. Identify your issues and concerns. That's really why we're here tonight. This is a slide you really don't need to see. You know where you are. And here's the fairgrounds, and here's the downtown, and there's the context map. The site, the study area is outlined in red, and red dotted line. When I touch the screen, it jumps ahead, so we'll go on back one. Well, let's just try it again. No? I'm getting used to this technology, this fancy screen we have here, which is great.
What's when you want this to go?
So that even though we have it just has a mind of its own, which is great. And I see it wants to run ahead and go. Jason, why don't we do this by hand here? Because it seems to be, let me try it again here. 1, 2, and I'm going to hit it once again, and then you can correct if I need to. The idea is that is a study area boundary, but we'll look beyond that. We have to look beyond it. So it isn't as if we go to that edge and don't look at the connectivity and what's happening in the surrounding neighborhood. And so we will look at a larger study area. And this is really the project purpose as it's set up. And we want the fair to be financially sustainable and to do these other two things that you see here. And you can add things to this. There's nothing, this is where we are at this point in time. There's a response sheet. Do we have enough of these, Jason, or not?
I think most of them are out, and we'll bring a few more.
In other words, we would like you to fill out one of these before you leave and really list your top 3 issues and concerns. And we'll take that, tally it. You can add anything else you want. You can write on the back, but it gives us a sense of what your specific issues and concerns are. To be very helpful. We'll tally that and get back to you. And then we're often asked, who are we? Well, we're a small firm out of Portland, Oregon, and we have been in this business a long time, longer than I'd like to admit. This is what we do. We work on cities around the country. We have worked on fairgrounds plans. Recently, we worked on one in Lincoln, Nebraska, and just finished up one in Salem, Oregon for the Oregon Fair. We have been active in Portland for many years, and we get good reviews, which we say we get rid of the bad ones, but we have learned from our successes and our mistakes, and some shots from our downtown, befores in the upper and afters in the lower. Of course, we had the privilege of working with all of you on your downtown plan, which is just finishing up, and this is a sketch from the Oregon State Fairgrounds, and we used a very similar process to the one we're talking about using here. And so the process is something like this. There's a starting piece, there's a designing piece. We're in the starting piece right now, which is to identify the opportunities and constraints, look at the existing conditions. And then, in the second part, to look at 3 conceptual alternatives for this site. The schedule outlined here we are on it should be 2-3, and the next meeting then would be to come back to you after we hear from you tonight and tomorrow with 3 conceptual plans for the site, and that would be sometime in March or April. Come back with those alternatives for your review and comment. The next thing we would do then is take your comments back, refine a plan, a preferred plan, and come back to you then a couple of months later with a preferred plan. And so we go from the very general to the very specific in this process. Now we're also then asked, well, what about moving to fairgrounds? That's a whole other process. And so a new fairground site will be looked at as a second phase, and the same kind of process would be used. But this one is to say, what can we do on this site, and how can we really do it right? That second piece then is over here, which would then follow. You can see in the following month, sometime in July, August, September, next fall. Now, you've been involved in a number of prior plans, and since we are short on time, I'm going to do this. Jason did it last time. You had a Central Park concept. You worked on that, and we're aware of that planning document and all the great work that was done. You had some key ideas. They're summarized here. The point of this is we take a look at everything that you've done before, and you've had some wonderful studies. We read them, we become familiar with them. It informs us. And we carry that work forward. There was a Fair Commission, a preferred alternative, and this isn't the one, but in 2007 there are 3 alternatives. We will look at those. We will look at the uses that were suggested and where those were located on the site. There was way back in 1989, there was a plan, and we will look at that as well. Even though these plans were done some time ago, there's often some wonderful ideas that can inform us. Existing conditions are summarized here, the existing land uses, of course, the park and the fair, the College of Technology, and the high school. There's some major auto routes that people use to get to the site. As we all know, it's pretty indirect. It's hard to find your front door and get in here. We're always interested in the traffic volumes on adjacent roads, because if uses change, then how are we going to impact these volumes? Or what do we need to keep in mind? Can we correct some of the situations that we find around the site today? Existing bus routes inform us about what's going on today and what we need to pay attention to. Same with bike routes, and we think perhaps there's some improvements that can be made here. The idea is that your fair plan will address all of these issues: autos, bikes, pedestrians. We look at the existing zoning, what is allowed today. Doesn't mean that zoning will be there forever, but it certainly informs us. We're always interested in the urban renewal area. Of course, here's the study area. The red then is an urban renewal area. Your site is just outside of it, but of course it will connect to it. When you have an urban renewal area, you often see substantial changes over a period of time. And so we will be looking at what might happen in the red area and how this area then might relate to it. And there was of course, we had the Parks Master Plan in 2004 with some suggestions on the southern half of the site, which we will keep in mind. We are looking at your fairgrounds uses that you have today. Leave that up there for a second. It informs us about what's going on and what might be missing, and of course your issues and concerns, and there we are. And so, any questions about that?
Okay, so why don't you set the side map up again?
Why does this include all of the rest of it other than the grounds? Are you really, like the VOTEC and the YMCA and the rest of that?
Why does it include it? Because it's in the neighborhood, and if we have an idea about what's going on in the neighborhood, it may inform us then about what you need to do on your site.
Because on here, that's outlined the whole place.
Yeah. So we tend to look at, let's say we go from the general to the specific, and so it's important for us to have a sense of what's going on in the neighborhood. Other questions? Thank you.
None of you are from Missoula, or?
No.
No, we don't look.
Totally, I've never been, I mean.
Oh, we've been working on the downtown plan for more than a year, so.
None of you are, no relatives, never been here, never?
I have friends who live in Ravelli County to the south. I've been to the fair there before, but that's it.
But,
Hamilton? Okay.
sure. But anything you can do to help us inform us, we're here to listen to.
We always tell people, assume we know nothing. Even though we've been around for over a year working on your downtown and have a pretty good sense of what is happening in and around Missoula, but when it comes to the fairgrounds, assume we know nothing. Inform us, please. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Have you been fed any ideas as which direction you should go from the county commissioners or whatever?
They have been totally objective about this. They just said, it's wide open, let the process run its course and let the public be involved and informed. So no ideas, no preconceptions at this point. But we're ready to get yours. So.
Well, you can't help but notice in any of the programs you have up there, the absence of a racetrack.
Yes.
And of course, I'm sure that 99% of us here in this room, that's our primary concern. And we want you to definitely work that into your plans if you can.
Okay. Thank you. Yes.
So you've never been to a fair here?
Right.
And do you ever plan on coming to a fair here?
Absolutely, because if you look at our schedule, we're going to be hanging around. as
I
we
just
move on
wondered if
through
you'd
this
stood in the
process.
Viking line for 30 minutes wanting a Viking, or if you'd missed the Charlie Russell Riders. We miss those. We miss a lot of the traditions that have just absolutely gone. The Hellgate Band used to play out here the national anthem just before the first race took off. That's gone. Too many traditions have absolutely just gone,
Totally vanished.
Well,
vanished.
we need to hear from you about these traditions, because if you can relate a place to its history, it's strong, and people appreciate that. It makes it real. And so if you have strong traditions, we would like to hear about them. And either give us it verbally or write them on down. Thank you.
Well, If I might add, I think that the horse racing, in my opinion, and I believe in many other people's opinions, was possibly the strongest that made people, it was identified with the fairgrounds and with the fair, and was quite possibly the largest influence on people attending, and that has gone now, and so the fair and the makeup of the fair has changed radically in the last 2 years from what it was when we had this great mixer, which I call what it did, and brought people together as a community, and that has disappeared. And I think that most of us here are personally involved with it, but it's bigger than just us personally. This was the feature that really drove the fair for many, many, many decades.
Thank you. Yes.
Young man, how many racetracks have you dealt with in all the fairs that you have redone? None? Or some?
A couple.
Good. This is a challenge for you, and we look forward to you not leaving us out of the game.
That's why you're here.
The biggest problem with them removing the horse racing from Missoula is the economy. There were a lot of people affected outside of Missoula County. There are people that have traveled as far as 1,500 to 2,000 miles to come here to Missoula for this event. What keeps this fairgrounds going is horse racing. You might not hear it from the county commissioners, but I'm speaking for the public. And it does keep this place going. That's why people come here. The economy from this year had nothing to do with the loss of people not coming here to the fair. People are going to spend their money on something they plan and look forward to. But I'm looking at it as a citizen who makes a living at a horse industry, which is year-round, it's worldwide. And when you take something like that away, you affect a lot of people. Groceries, hotels, malls, gas stations, and that's counting from the people that leave their home to come here. You'll get more people at the horse races and during the fair and spend more money in Missoula than you will at any homecoming when the university plays in the fall.
Thank
That's
you.
just a start.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you very much. Other comments?
Poor Dale Mallon
Yeah.
and Moody and
Yeah.
Bob Smith, got to stand up here. My name is Nick Alonso. I'm a local business owner. But more than that, and I've told Buck invited me, told me about half an hour before the meeting started, that probably thought I should be here. I've grown up here, I've been here all my life. I grew up over on McDonald Street, which is about 3 or 4 blocks away from the fairgrounds. And this is kind of funny, but I went to the races with my father when I was in 3rd grade. We won a Quinella. I don't know if you know what a Quinella is.
Oh, yeah.
It was a really, really big deal to me. We won $66 on the $2 bet.
Yeah.
My dad actually gave me $33.
You were, yeah.
I was hooked for life.
Yeah, I remember.
I've been hooked on gambling, I've been, but, hooked on gambling. Hooked on gambling. But I'll tell you something, that fair, as a 3rd grade boy, and back then it was this side of town. The fairgrounds were this side of town. Everything happened there. You probably don't know that we played football there. I scored touchdowns on that little oval in between that thing. Not many because I played defense. But I scored 1. I scored 1 touchdown.
Okay.
You can tell me to shut up anytime. But that fairgrounds, when I was growing up, was a really, really, really big deal. Everything happened out there for some reason. It was just like, you had the Little League out there. I went through the Little League program. I coached Little League for 20 years out there. I coached Little Grizzly out there. We played our football games out there. That whole, granted it doesn't encompass the horse race area, but it was just that's an area there that you could go park, you could go play. And over the years, like I said, I've always lived on this side of town, not the Rattlesnake, not the downtown. So much has been made of the downtown. I mean, I'm a business owner that has quite a few businesses in Missoula, which none of them are downtown. Okay, but it just seems like with us, it's and not to cut you down here, Kim,
Go on.
but I honestly think that any reporter that works for the Missoulian, their car, when they pull out of the parking lot, just turns right all the time. Everything is right. It's either downtown, or it has nothing to do with the reserve area, or, you know what, we call it our side of town. You know, there's this our side of town. Nothing ever seems to happen. And you know, we don't yell, we don't scream, we don't do, you know, we don't do parades, we don't, but we also don't get any attention. And the fairgrounds has always been kind of the little thing that really always seems to kind of come up all the time. You know, what are we going to do with the fairgrounds? What are we going to do with the fairgrounds? And like I said, I've been a long-time horse racer. I've always loved, that was our my wife's 1 or 2 days. We go to the races, we go see the pigs. You know, the pigs look the same every year. You know, there's always something, there's always the food. It's an event in our town that has been, I'm 50, and I've been going to the fairgrounds as long as I can remember. Horse races are a huge part of that. Huge, huge. And the last couple, 3 years, like I said, we've lost that. We've lost that little, I think you hit on it. It's a meeting with a lot of the people that I graduated high school with, that I went to college with. I went to very much college. Very little college. But it's kind of like a little class reunion for us. We all used to be at the Bear Gardens on Friday and Saturday night. That was where you saw the guys, which is so unbelievable that I don't see these guys the whole year until that stupid beer garden on a Friday night. Now you go there, you don't see the people there because there's no reason to go. The horses and it's a day, it's an event, it's something that I said to my wife last year when we left your little concert, which you talked about. You go to the concert, you walk out and you go, you really want to go down? Nah, let's just go home. You know, it wasn't that day. It was a concert that you went to and you came home. Our days were, you know, I usually spend Friday and Saturday. You go to the races, you go see the whole event, and I miss that, and that's why I'm here tonight. I think it's a really important part of this community to keep those little 4 or 5 or 6 days of Missoula, because it was a huge part of it. I think most people aren't here. I mean, well, we're not a very big room here, but everybody wants it. Everybody wants that 3 or 4 days. They don't want to pay for it. They don't want to come out for it. They don't want to, but they want it. And sometimes those things are, I think very important. I've remodeled a lot of businesses, which is my next thing. I've seen, okay, move the fairground out to the county, or move it, or do whatever. You know, when you start moving things and you start remodeling, it's the worst experience I've ever had in my life. I've sworn to God, the 18 businesses I've built, I will never, ever remodel another anything. It's just easier just to tear it down, spend the money. It's cheaper to build it new and just start over. And to move all of this infrastructure and move it out to a whole nother. We keep seeming to we're moving everything out of, like I said, our side of town, our side, which is this side of the river. I mean, I don't know if you know that there's a river that goes through Missoula. There's 2 sides to this town. There's our side and their side. And we seem to always get the goddamn bad side of everything. Like I said, I don't want to cut you down, Kim, but there is their side of the river, the Missoulian side of the river, and we never get any, you know, it's always bad press on our side, you know, and I just think that it would be something, it's a jewel. What is George Lambros? I was on the committee that George Lambros was on, and I certainly don't want to see the whole thing developed into a central. I don't want to see the Little League fields. You know, I coached Little League for 20 years on those fields. That is the best complex for Little League in the state of Montana. I went down to San Bernardino. Our complex is as good or better than San Bernardino as far as the whole complex. How many teams can play on those fields? Those things can never go away. They can be changed, and they can, you know, there's a couple of the fields that could change, but I was involved with Bob O'Connor. Everybody knows Bob O'Connor, I'm sure. You know, he was the one that told me, you know, that somebody's got to take care of those fields. And somebody does have to. They're Little League fields, they're baseball fields, they're Little Grizzly fields. And I know that the Little Grizzly will probably move out to the fort, and that's okay, because those are football. That's a whole different deal. But there's just so much neighborhood in there, and it's still there. It's if you start moving all these things out of the middle of Missoula, or our side of the river, I should say, you lose something. You just do. You lose what's left of that neighborhood field. A couple things here. I was a member of the local tavern owners, that did the beer gardens out there. All the things that they did, all that money that they earned, went to all the little programs. Went to the Little League, went to the Little Grizzly, went to everything in this town. Those guys, when we went to those meetings, it was $200 here, $500 there, $1,000 here. Whoever came to us, we gave them the money from the beer revenue. All those things are gone. They really are. Sorry, stop me for the bathroom. I was going to ask you about that. But that was a big revenue generator for that club. Well, that's gone. All the groups that come together once a year, kind of like Christmas. They come together one time a year. That's their fundraiser. They all donate their time. They work their asses off. It's hot in those booths. But it's the one time of the year that they can actually feel like, oh, we did something really good here. We donated $15,000 or $20,000 to something good in this town. And I think that area right there represents a lot more than just horse racing. Even though I love horse racing, I really do miss it. I think it was I think it was the most important part of the fairgrounds, period. And without it, and if it moves, there won't be horse racing. We all know that. They're not going to throw horse racing out there. We need to figure out a way. There's got to be a way. There are still horses and there are still people. We need to figure out a way in this town to keep that area and to improve it. Some of those buildings, I'm sure Scott, I'll talk to Scott, some of those, they're old and they need to be redone. But they don't need to be moved.
Okay.
Take each one. Are you done with me?
We're going to come back to you.
Said to shut up, yes.
Yeah. We're going to come back to you because we're going to go around the room and let everyone.
We got about 35 minutes, and we want to make sure we hear from everybody.
Yeah, everyone, but thank you very, very much, yeah. Okay.
Now, would I have just a couple minutes because
we're going to start with you. We're going to start with you, and then we're going to go counterclockwise around the room. So,
okay.
Everybody gets a chance.
And your name first is?
Yes, for the record, my name is Dale Mallon. I was a past member of the Fair Board for many years here in Missoula. I've had the opportunity to watch and to listen and to learn from the citizens of our community as to what they expect and what they want in a community fair. Number one, they want to be entertained. Number two, they want to see the exhibits in a fair, and they want to see the exhibits because they might say, well, that would be my kid or my neighbor or somebody in my community club or something like that. So the third thing they want to do is they want to see the friends that they only see once a year in a fair. It's so amazing because so many times you go to the fair and you see your friends once a year, and I've heard people sitting on the bench in front of the office say, see you next year at the fair. And number four, there's one great thing that everybody loves, and that's called fair food. It's a once-a-year treat, and it's one of those things that people enjoy. So let's go back to the entertainment. We have the night show that we have, which is a great thing. It's a wonderful way for our local citizens to see and hear a star perform that they wouldn't see. They wouldn't be able to travel otherwise. So they can see a star coming in here. And the Fair Board is usually really good about bringing in star performance for them. Now, they also have a rodeo, and a rodeo in our western area is a must for the many people who sincerely enjoy watching this Old West performance. And in the afternoon, there is horse racing done. You will find the stands full of people, and these people are sitting up there watching the horse races. And maybe not even betting. A lot of people don't even bet. I've sat up there with these people and they'll just sit there and they'll visit with their friends, but they like the pageantry of the horses when they come out for the post parade and the excitement when they're coming down the stretch. You cannot believe what people start yelling and screaming, you know, and look at their tickets and the people are doing. Otherwise, they're surprising how many people bet amongst themselves. I might bet Dale Bagnell a quarter that the 6 horse is going to be ahead of his 8 horse, you know, and they just have a little fun doing those things. But they like to sit with friends and perhaps they like to enjoy the pageantry of the horse. And that's exactly what they want to see. And you would be shocked. You would utterly be shocked if you knew how many people get out of that stands during the course of the afternoon, walk down to the midway and pick up some type of food. And then they go get a lemonade or some type of cold drink, and they bring it back up there and they sit and visit some more with the people up there. I've sat up there over the period of years and just watch these people do that. So they bring these goodies up there and they watch the races. Now what horse racing is part of the pie brings is a complete circle, the entertainment for our local citizens. We have all these different entertainment that the Fair Board purchases for the people to see once a year. And the part of the pie that hasn't been utilized in the last couple of years is horse racing. They haven't had, so consequently, and other people will talk about this, is the lack of money that is brought into the concessionaires, like the beer booths, you were talking about the beer booths, things like that. So, then you will hear from these concessionaires about the lack of their sales. Horse racing, rodeo, night shows, demolition derby, carnival, these are all part of the entertainment for our citizens of our Missoula community. And we want to keep the pie. We don't want to just take that one piece of the pie of the horse race and say, go away, we don't want you anymore. It's not fair to the community citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. You, by the way, you can pass if you don't want to comment. Here, feel free to do that. Yeah.
Dale Bagnell, racehorse trainer, and I believe that when they took the horse racing out of the fair, that was probably the biggest blow that you've done to any business. And the feelings I get is that the Fair Board is doing everything they can to keep horse racing out of here, and to bring in a management to tell them how to build something. I think you're better off to repair what we got than try to replace it with something new. But I know one thing, I used to come away every summer for the fair, but the last few years I haven't been here. There is none. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Jeff Patterson. I'm a longtime member of the Missoula County Sheriff's Posse. We're a mounted posse. And I've grown up here in Missoula County, going to this fair, going to the horse races. I used to love to go back behind the barns and look at the race horses like everybody else. And it's all gone now. And it seems like everything that has to do with horses is gone now. And to take this track out of there, to change the fairgrounds into something other than a fairgrounds that supports horses and 4-H, FFA, agriculture, is nothing more than creating another big civic center. And we don't need a big civic center. We need a fairgrounds that supports agriculture and equine and 4-H and FFA. I don't know how many of you are into 4-H, but it's one of the best things that can ever happen to a kid is 4-H. My grandkids are all in 4-H. We spend our summers chasing 4-H. And unfortunately, I've seen this track and this fairgrounds degrade to a point that's embarrassing for 4-H and for equine activities. Past couple of summers, 4-H has done their 4-H shows, equine shows, a couple of weeks before the fair, out in an area that's dangerous. I'm also a private investigator and an equine expert on equine liabilities. And I got to tell you, it's just been by luck that somebody hasn't been hurt badly out here at this track because of it's in such disrepair. And, you know, we have an asset here. This track is a huge asset to this community. And to not consider that in a plan is irresponsible. So I would just go on record to say that whatever the plan is, and we don't, you know, I can't say I've seen a plan other than the 2007 plan, which didn't include a track. In fact, the 2007 plan, while it included equine facilities, created huge liabilities for equine owners as well as the general public. So I haven't seen a plan yet that I like, that I think fits this community or supports the equine industry. The equine industry in the United States is a $214 billion industry. Montana doesn't boast much of that. Most of it is in Florida and on the East Coast. And for us to ignore the value of the equine industry by removing this track, again, is irresponsible as a community.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
I'm Park Edwards, just a local owner trainer, but I'd like to see the main plan be for the 5 days of the fair and do the fair as an ag thing, what a fair is supposed to be. Racing, rodeo, 4-H. They can do their trade shows and their other stuff that they want to do at another time. But let the fair be what a fair is supposed to be. You go to Billings and those places and they're just turning into a trade show, and they can do that anytime.
Thank you. End of the table.
I agree with Bart wholeheartedly what he says. It needs to remain an agricultural fair.
Thank you.
I'm Val Crossland. I'm a former pari-mutual teller, and I have been pari-mutual teller for 32 years. I manage a simulcast over the Lucky Strike, and horse racing has been in my life for over 30 years. And I can't tell you the number of people that I talk to 5 days a week still that say, when is horse racing coming back? When is horse racing coming back? Because we will not step foot on the fairgrounds until that comes back. It has hurt local businesses, it hurt owners, it's hurt trainers, we've lost jockeys. And I think it's just, we have to get it back. It's part of the ambiance of the fair, just like everybody is in agreement. It's a focal point. It draws people together. It draws money to the community. It helps everybody. The last couple of years has been a real dismal fair report, down 27% since 2006. And that was the last year of live horse racing. Businesses have suffered. People have lost their jobs. It's only 5 days a week. But I lost 5 days a week. The gate people have lost 5 days a week. The groomers, everybody lost.
Thank you.
My name is Bruce Miklas. I'm the track announcer. I've also been involved with several ownership groups here, Limited. I also have a business that does a lot of business during Fair Week because of the people that come into the community. The fair used to be a 5-star event. Communities would have given just about anything to have what we had for the 10-day buzz of the week before the fair and the fair. Things have changed. I think that the nixing of horse racing has had a huge effect on that. We had a 5-star event, but we were holding it in a 1-star facility, and the liability issue is really where the focus of the beginnings of not having horse racing here began, by the liability that the jockeys had because the track was in disrepair. I can only hope that whatever facility we end up with, and I know that the timing is extremely poor right now, we can't even pass a bond issue for a 911 center. So who is going to want to throw money at a new fairgrounds? But if we are somehow able to pull off the financial end, that we get a commitment from our county commissioners and our county that they will take care of this facility. This facility has deteriorated. It was kept together mainly by one guy for several decades, and after he left, the rubber bands started breaking and the Band-Aids started hanging and falling. And you know, I know we haven't had a lot of money in our coffers, but if we're going to have a facility, if we're going to have a 5-star event, then let's take care of it. Let's make the restrooms usable. Let's make the handicap facilities. Let's be proud of the facility that we have. We've had a beautiful place here that's deteriorated to almost being useless now, and we pretty much do have to level it and begin again. And I would certainly hate to see this kind of thing happen again, where we didn't want to take care of the things that we're supposedly responsible for.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Well, I don't have too much more to say, but I'm an avid horse race fan. And I just don't think there's anything more beautiful than watching those horses romp down that stretch. And there's nothing that I can think of more challenging than to look over all of the facts and figures on those horses. And there's nothing more satisfying that when you do this, you pick the winner. And there's all kinds of people in our community that just live, eat, and breathe going out there and betting on the horse, cheering for their jockeys, having a beer or two, socializing. And I agree with Bruce that it's criminal the way that this grounds has been neglected. And if it's not criminal, it's a damn shame that it hasn't been better taken care of. And we wouldn't be in the position we're in right now, I don't believe, if it had been.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Roger Fraley. I'm with the Turf Club now, but I've trained horses here. And one point that people haven't talked about is our last year of racing, we went out to the community and asked for sponsors for the races. They'd kick in a little extra money to the purse, they'd get a picture, sometimes a coat. And we had every race, I believe there was 59 races. I think we had sponsors for every race but 3. And so the community does really support this. And other than that, I agree with everybody else. I think I saw Nick score that touchdown. I think that was in '76. But the event, you see people you haven't seen since high school, or you just see them once a year. You stand and compare programs. You visit, you see their kids. You hear somebody scream when they show the $4,500 superfecta, and you look and it's some lady that just lives down the street that didn't even know what she was betting on or something. So it'd just be really a sad day to throw this all out.
Thank you.
Elaine Fraley, Roger, and I, like he said, we train, we bred horses. Right now, we've got 4 mares out in our pasture. We haven't bred them for 3-4 years now, just because the horse racing industry went. So that's another aspect.
Thank you.
I'm going to pass for the horse race.
Okay.
Just pass me.
Pass.
I just want to say that what we're hoping to get out of this process is a fair that can turn itself around and start putting money back into the facilities and fixing their track. And so if horse racing is going to be part of it, they got to be part of that solution as well. And so, but I'm hoping we can all work together to come up with those types of solutions that can bring us back.
Thank you.
My name is Cliff Larson, and I agree largely with what everybody's been saying about the agricultural aspect of the fair. Horse racing is a pivotal piece, kind of a centerpiece in many respects. I grew up in Emmett, Idaho, a great little dirt track where they raised world-class quarter horses, and have fallen in love with thoroughbreds. Dale and I both raised thoroughbred horses and race them. I'm trying to get him to cooperate with me and and race another one of my horses. Maybe he can co-sponsor with me. But we raise some nice animals around here, and we have no venue to race them. The entertainment value, what Dale was talking about, I think, is kind of front and center. There's an appeal about horse racing. There's a level of excitement. I heard several of you comment on that. When you see the horse prancing in the post parade, and you see them thundering down the straightaway, and you got $2 on one of those nags, it just, I don't know, $2 doesn't seem like that much money, but somehow it really enhances the particular value of that race. And so, for that reason, and many others, I think horse racing should be considered. I don't want to be a fatalist because I think, in the past couple of years, it's been concluded by some that horse racing is finished here. And my point is that there's a track. It's not being used. We have horses. We have lots of horse people. And we have horse lovers that like to go to the races. If we can find a way to eliminate or at least capture the liability issues that the county commissioners were so concerned about, and so was the fair manager, and it should be. If we can find a way to manage the liability issues, we got the track, we got horses, we got horse trainers, we got people that want to go to horse races. So until you decide what you want to do with our track, let us use the damn thing. It's just sitting over there. And I know we have terrible stables, I know we have facilities and a lot of work, but we can rent temporary stables, bring them in, set them up, let them for 10 days, ship them off to the next track. It happens all over the West and the Intermountain West. There's another aspect of this horse racing that I've seen as a trustee of the American Legion Post 27. We have a bingo booth. I know I'm getting to be an old guy now, I'm talking about bingo, but we raise a hell of a lot of money in the bingo booth, or we did until the last 2 years. Over 60% of our revenue, and Mr. Dean can confirm this, is gone. People that came and played bingo for a couple hours before the races were people that went to the races and bet on the races and went to the beer garden and bought beers and stood in the damn line to buy those Norwegian meatballs. And we all did that, and we had a hell of a good time. And it reminds me every year when we go to the fair, my son, my wife, and I, how exciting it is just for a few days. I run into everybody under the sun at that event. It's not like that anymore. And I think horse racing would be a part of it. And I hope that we reconsider that because as a trustee of the American Legion Post 27, who wants more money in our coffers so we can do those good deeds in the community like you were talking about, and also to kind of support the general interests of American Legion, but also to bring back that entertainment value and the agricultural concept. Horses are a part of the West and the Intermountain West, and they're part of this community. They're all around us, and we just need to have a venue to not to go back and live the good old days, but to live the current days. If you're going to get rid of our track, at least let us use the damn thing until you do take it away. So give us the opportunity. Please put that in the offer.
Thank you.
I'm going to pass. I'm here to listen. Pass. Yes.
I'd just like to say thanks for coming this evening. And just so everybody is clear in the room, this is a transparent process. There's no preconceived notions going into this thing. So all your input, and I applaud the commissioners and the senior management staff of the county and my staff. This input that we're getting from all the groups tonight until 9 o'clock tonight and all day again tomorrow, this is valuable information that these folks are going to take back when they start putting all these pieces of the puzzle together. So, rest assured that your input tonight is very critical. There's no, plan to do anything right now. That's their job, is to put all the pieces in the puzzle together, come back to us next, as the schedule showed, and then hopefully the commissioners can make a decision then. So, I just want to say thanks for the turnout.
I'll pass.
Dale.
Yes, sir.
I'm Al Brothers. I'm chairman of the board of horse racing. I'm also a national director for American Quarter Horse Association. I personally have trained and run horses in Missoula for 30 years. It amazes me that they don't have it to the fact that Missoula has the largest handle per day of any track in the state of Montana. I look at your grandstands when I'm down here on weekends, you can't move. You can even get bigger handles, but you don't have room enough for them to bit. As an owner and trainer, I miss it really, really bad. We'd love to come down to Missoula and race horses. as chairman of the board of horse racing, I will do anything that I can in my power to let you have dates to run horses. So I just wanted to come down here and tell you that we're aware of what's going on. We would like to help in any way we can.
Thank you.
I'm Ryan Sherman. I'm the executive secretary for the Montana Board of Horse Racing. I grew up in Montana around horse racing and loved it so much I went to college and got a degree in horse racing. And I've spent about 7 years away from the industry in Montana at different organizations throughout the United States. I came back early this May because I believe so much in horse racing in the state of Montana, and I want to see it succeed. That I took the job and came back home, and I can honestly tell you, whether you're talking numbers or you're talking people or you're talking anything, Montana Board of Horse Racing absolutely misses horse racing at the fair here in Missoula. We have through the legislature the past couple of years, we do have a couple of new programs that will hopefully generate enough money for us to exceed any kind of purse levels, any kind of race dates that we've ever had in this state before. We are also now working on a program to offset a lot of the costs for liability, jockeys' liability insurance throughout this state, and hopefully that plan comes to fruition here at the very first part of this next year, which will cut costs for racetracks and make it more affordable for them to open the doors and hopefully add some new rates. So I just want to say thanks for letting the Board of Horse Racing come to the meeting tonight, and we hope that we're able to work with Missoula in the future because we really could use.
Thank you.
I'm Ray Tracy, and I'm on the Board of Horse Racing. I hope you don't screw up too bad. I've had a stroke here recently, so I'm liable to screw up a little bit. But one of the things I think is very important is that about the last 2 or 3 years, we have worked very carefully with the state of Montana in order to get the finances that we need in order to run racing in the state of Montana. You know, the Breeders' Association has died. HVBA has kind of fallen on the ground. All of our programs that we have kind of fallen apart. But what we've got going for us right now is that the Board of Horse Racing is working very closely with, number one, we've got fantasy wagering that they can bet. It's not good enough the way that we'd like it to be, but we're still working on it. That other program is count wagering that we have, where we're going to bet on horse races around the state of Montana. The other one is simulcast that we've got coming in. And the other one is, we've got a lady that's over there working with the Board of Horse Racing, with the, working with the, not the Board of Horse Racing, but the fantasy, or not the...
Lottery?
Well, we've got the lottery in there that's putting that program together, but she's working with the people for fantasy football. That's help.
You're working in the governor's office.
Governor's Draft
Governor's
Board?
office and that program that we've got, insurance, the insurance company that we've got putting together in order to get the programs the way that we want to get it done. So all of these things have been done, and we're working very closely on it. I would like to stand up here and say, oh, we've got all of that stuff ready to go, but we're close. You know, we're right on the right step, and maybe within the next 2 or 3 years, we will have the money, we'll have the insurance. Now what we need is the track in order to run the game. I thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Buck Smith, serves on the Fair Board. I think however your plan comes up, one of the things is it's going to need to be fiscally driven. It's going to need to be fiscally responsible for the citizens who are going to buy into it. And we, as a Fair Board, we made horse racing stand alone, and we kept telling them they were losing $80,000 a year. But we didn't figure in a lot of things. But I will tell you that in the last 35 years that this old man here has been associated with the board. 33 of those 35 years, the fair made budget. The 2 years the fair has not made budget are the 2 years we haven't raced horses. So in order to continue to be fiscally driven, I think that horse racing is going to need to be an integral part of what you present to the public.
Thank you. Okay, I haven't had a stroke, but I can screw up anyway. So I sat here and made a few notes, and he's a little off, it's a little over 40 years I was on the board. When I was a kid, my dad would come out here, take the week off. See, I'm gonna take you down memory lane here for a minute. He'd sit in one place, and before the week was over, he saw everybody he knew. And he did it until he passed away. But the big thing is, we talk about horse racing, but we need to first preserve our history and our heritage, and I know that the county's heard this from us forever. Preserve our history and heritage. That's 4-H and FFA and apple pie and motherhood and all the rest of those things. But part of our heritage is also horse racing. Horse racing is the oldest form of legalized wagering in the state of Montana. And I made a few notes just sitting here. Can't read my own writing, and they won't run together with any fluidity, if that's a word. But Dale elaborated on it to me. The fair is an entertainment package. Not one thing that happened here could have stood on its own. And like Buck said, when they made racing stand on its own, and Barbara will argue with me, and I'll argue with her forever, but that's beside the point. We've done it many times. They claimed it lost $80,000. Well, it cost $80,000 to put it on. But the first year we didn't have it, the gate and concessions were down about 100. So to me, you could have run and at least broke even and satisfied everybody. And Barbara and I'll still argue about this, but she won't be able to do it now, probably, which is good. But I'd probably lose. But it's an entertainment package, and that helped make that all successful. So now, the last 2 years, and Scott's very good at cutting costs and saving money, and Nick knows it, and Dale knows it, we've been in business, you can save your way right out of business, and that's what's going to happen here if something does not happen, and you don't have some people involved in the fair with some risk mentality. You've got to take risks to do things. And if you sit there and cut this and cut that and cut that, pretty soon you've got nothing left to cut, and you're out of business. So we need to get involvement to find things that can be done, and there are new things with today's technology, and the fair has done that. Where's Scott go? I don't pick up. Anyway, I don't pick up. I love it. But you know, in changing the things at the fairgrounds with the internet and things and different displays, and those things are being done. One of the other things, people say, well, you got all that wasted ground out there. Well, sure, it might look wasted, but if you have a rodeo, you probably need 4 to 6 acres just to park the rigs and to take care of the horsemen's horses, the guys that brought their roping horse and their dogging horse, and all the rest of it. So you need a lot of room to do that. One of the other stories you hear, well, the ground's too expensive. We shouldn't have it here. Well, several years ago, probably 15, we had an appraisal done on this property because, you know, every time a new commissioner ran for office, the first thing was they're going to move the ground. That's how they talk, all of them. Well, we had an appraisal done, but by the time they took out for streets and sidewalks and parks, and a few single-family and a few multiple-family dwellings, you couldn't replace the grandstands, much less the square footage of all this infrastructure that's here. So, you know, if you moved it out of town 5 miles or 10, if you can even find a place nowadays, 50 years from now, that's going to be too expensive. And myself and some other people in town from the Park Commission and stuff, but Blood Broman was a county commissioner. I was on a Fairgrounds Master Plan Committee, and we came up with the fact that we should have moved it to where Larchmont Golf Course is now. That's all owned by the county. And 3 ways on and off of that property for access and egress would have been great. Well, after we came up with that solution, of course, we never had heard another thing about that. But anyway, I told you I wasn't very well organized. Again, I guess I'll shut up maybe, but I think one thing's very obvious the last 2 years, and I think it is right. My understanding is
it would be the first time in my memory, and I'm 78 years old and been around here a long time with the fair before I was even on the board, and I went on there in '62. I think it's the first time this fair has not made its budget. So that tells you something right there. And what we need, and I think the county realizes they did some things and changed some people, but you need an advisory committee, if nothing else, made up of people with some business experience, some business sense, because this is, as I say, it's an entertainment package. It's a business. It's not a county agency where they say, here's your department head, you get $100,000, don't spend any more than that. They give them the money. See, I'm getting rolling now. No, you can shut me down anytime. The last, in '76, Scott, I think our budget was just under $1 million a year to run this place. I think, Barbara, we got from the county maybe $55,000. We had to generate the rest of it. You talk about the buildings, that's where they're in repair they are. We had to put $200,000 to $300,000 borrowed money from the state for this water system they had to put in for that, so that flow of business. And those things were all paid for out of having a fairgrounds, the community involved at the fairgrounds. We were giving the people what they wanted and they loved. It's not too late to continue to do that. But I'll just sit down. Is that all right, Bob?
Thank you very much. We are running a little over schedule here, but we want to hear from you also. We're just going to keep rolling around here. And we have people coming in from the Carnival Rodeo, and we'll get with you in a minute.
So we're right at this table. They're the next.
We're on the next. Okay, all right. Okay.
Sid Billingsley. This fair has been going on for over 100 years, and that's when horse racing first started. We're taking a tradition away from the people of this city or county or whatever. You're really taking something away that's dear to their hearts. And there's many things I think that are coming up now, like fantasy betting, that's going to help the horse racing. You just give them a chance. It's just like these racing up in Canada. They have the betting from that's what they pay all their expenses with, is gambling there. And I think you can, this fantasy betting is going to come in and really help and take a big burden off the fair board, all of theirs. And I think it's going to help out a lot. But it's something that has been taken away from us. It's dear to our heart. We had this all our life here. Look forward to it. And we don't want it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Joy, did you have
I'd like to add again, and I'll keep it brief. The trouble began several years ago when the jockey's insurance came up. And that was a ruse from the county commissioner's office because there was an insurance package sponsored and brought out by a company in Texas. Miles City, Great Falls, and Billings jumped right on it, and they could afford it. Like the handle was mentioned, Missoula is the highest. Our handle is higher than those three tracks. Now, with the fantasy football that's come up, and that's the governor's okay because he appointed Dale Malum as the chairperson of the governor's task force. An estimated $1,900,000 they say is going to be played by the end of the football season. Now a percentage of that goes back to horse racing, which is either 14 or 16%. That's 100,900. That's big money, man. That's for horse racing. Now, if you take the racetrack away, you're going to be the bad guys, and you're going to leave a sour taste in our mouths, and we don't want you around anymore. So the facilities here, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Let the horsemen take the reins with the governor's task force, the fantasy football. Maybe a private organization can step in, rent the facilities from the county fairgrounds. The county's not held liable for anything. let them run a race meet. It's done in many other small fair meets. I'm sure you're familiar with Dick Monahan from Washington and Oregon for writing several programs for those smaller meets. But what else would I need to say? I think that's about it. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right. Anyone else? Who are we missing?
Got one more.
All right, you get the...
The rest of 4-H, next last one.
We heard that from everyone else?
Yeah, the rest are for the next hour.
Yeah, next hour.
Okay.
Real quick, is it Mr. Larson? Cliff Larson. Senator Larson. Senator. I kind of, as you were talking to these three gentlemen here, it was kind of like it's their land and their decision and their, and I kind of got that out of you too.
Absolutely.
Don't leave this, it isn't theirs, it isn't, it's ours. It's
I said,
ours.
I don't want to be a fatalist. They do take it.
Right.
And it
But
isn't
it's
fair.
ours.
Yeah, I
And I've
understand.
been involved in a couple civic projects in the last couple of years that have really been hard. I mean, I've really learned a lot about people, and it seems like the people that speak the loudest, not speak the loudest are the ones that get from people like you guys, in the town, and people like them, they're the ones that come out in force and say, we either like this or we don't like this. Might be the 30 people that yell the loudest, they're the ones that, against the 1,000 people that it's going to do the most good for. But it's those 30 people that are the ones that speak to these guys because they have the guts or they feel so strongly. But it's those 30 people, and I kind of got that out of that they're going to make this decision. They're not going to make this decision. It's the people of Missoula, the people that are really, really into this program that got that got me out here. I swear to God, I wasn't going to do anything like this again because I've been through a couple of these. And the letters you get at home and the phone calls and the crap you get. However, the day that I went to the fair and there wasn't horse races, I'm going, you know what? There wasn't enough goddamn people out there that bitched enough to keep horse racing, to keep these fairgrounds. That is a valuable, valuable chunk of land sitting there in Missoula, Montana. It is very valuable. You're never going to replace that. I've been in business long enough to know that the number one, location. That chunk of land serves this whole town perfectly. All the way from 93 to the interstate, everybody can get there. There's parking, it's there. Everything is there to make a very successful fairgrounds. And you got a guy like him, who I've met here in the last 3 or 4 years, works his ass off to try to get this facility to make it better, and nobody's helping it. Everybody's kind of like, it's just this, and like I say, I went to the fair, and there was no horse racing, and it sucked. And that's the only reason that I'm out here, is because I think it's really, really important that there's got to be some people out there that get mad enough and say to the people that don't want it, and you know what, this is a good thing. This is a great chunk of property. Let's do everything we can to make sure that fairground stays just like it is. Give a little, you'll get a little. Like Nooney said, you got to risk a little bit. I know government they can't risk. I understand that. They don't have that. But there is other people out there that are willing to risk, and I think it's something that really needs to stay in Missoula, Montana. So I'm on board.
Thank you. I remembered what I was going to say. And I don't see the faces here representing them, and maybe they'll be here tomorrow. But us horse racing folk, we share that oval also with the motorcycle races that come into Missoula, the car races, the demolition derby, the monster trucks. Also, and I don't know if I don't see a familiar face here.
I do have one real quick thing here. I do own the Montana Club, which is a block away from. You want to know something? This is kind of sad, but the Montana Club, my restaurant, has been up the 2 years that the horse racing hasn't been there. So it's not. It has nothing to do about my business. Don't think there's anything there. I do more business when the horse racing isn't there because people aren't eating there. They're eating at my restaurant. Why the hell would you go to the horse racing when you can go? So it has nothing to do about
That's it.
All right.
We don't need an event center here either. I mean, we need the track fixed and the fair fixed, and not a full-time event
We
center.
have the University Field.
Dale has the last comment. Go, Dale. You have the last comment. You said you had one thing?
He wants to pass to me.
You know, I have a little problem, George. I've known this fellow since he was a little kid like this. He played with my kids. I didn't realize what an extemporary speaker he was.
I think with that, we can close this meeting. I want to thank you all for coming out. You've given us all sorts of great information, and we will include that in the alternatives and in the deliberations and get back to you with some alternatives in some months, in a few months. And again, thank you very, very much for coming on out and giving us your time this evening. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Issues of, I think there are issues we should push them further on, whether we want to do it now or wait a little bit, I don't know. But we're not still talking about responsibility for adaptation or the final end game, how do you allocate it. And both of the cap and trade system talk about a 50 or 60 cent reduction. That's not going to be enough in all likelihood. Now, I think those that are convinced this is a real issue are just so happy that we're talking about something that we don't want to mess it up. But yeah, we're waiting. Al Gore actually came into Bali, and he changed the whole debate. The U.S. was holding out in Bali, and Gore walked in. He also had just gotten off the plane from Oslo and got the prize, and he said to the world, he said, don't pay any attention to the U.S. position now. Wait for 4 or 5 months. I can guarantee you it will be different. It will be more progressive. Go on and negotiate as if they're not in the room. Now, he said this to 180 countries. He's standing at the front, and he got this amazing round of applause. And at that very moment, the negotiations moved forward. It seemed to pull something out of it, and a lot of people. What's that?
What did the U.S. delegation do when you said that?
Well, the truth of the matter, I was on the U.S. delegation. In many cases, people times on the U.S. delegation, they're hoping that people give you more shit than we're getting. They can't stand the position that you're taking. So in many cases, the State Department guy that heads up the delegation is trying to do as much as he can internally. In fact, I'll tell you something. I worked for the Clinton administration, and we used to sit in the room and we used to say, why aren't the Americans giving us more trouble about these issues? These are really stupid positions we're taking. And the NGOs were not paying attention to what the real issues are. They were trying to make a position for cats, and cats weren't on the agenda. So a lot can be said about how you try to influence the international process to make a difference, but you got to pay real good attention to what the real debate is, okay? Because it's a matter of timing, access, and those issues. Yeah.
I think looking globally at distributive justice is
Right.
important, but I'm also curious to know what consideration is being given to within the nations for distributive justice.
Well, that's also a great question. How are nations allocating responsibility within countries? Well, I think every nation's doing it slightly differently. They all have different plans for their carbon strategy. Most of the Europeans are still failing with the transportation sector. It's giving them all trouble. Even though gasoline right now in Norway was $11 a gallon, okay, when it was there, okay, and they're still going to exceed the Kyoto Protocol, so they're all struggling with what to do with the transportation sector. But they're making real progress. In Germany, as we speak, Denmark is 26% of its electricity comes from wind, and they have a 50% goal in 10 years, and they think they're going to make it. Okay, so there's some really good successes in the electricity sector. They're doing it on a sector-by-sector approach, is basically what I think is true of all of the European countries right now. So.
I guess I'm wondering in part about, say, if the countries even meet meet their goals as far as per country? Are they distributing that?
Well, that's also an interesting question. I don't know if you know what happened in Kyoto. The European Union agreed to a target, and then they reallocated the target among the European countries in a separate negotiation. So the European target was an 8% reduction, which interestingly enough was a higher percentage than the US, which was 7. So they agreed to a tougher target, even though the US hadn't done anything for 20 years, which gets back to your question. And then they reallocated, so they gave the growing countries like Spain and Ireland a bigger, and Germany and France took on the toughest intra-European target. So they